Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 83rd Annual Membership Meeting of the Pan American Association of Philadelphia. In 1940, as the winds of war were blowing throughout the world, some enlightened Philadelphia decided that it was a good idea to form an association that would focus on what was going on in the Western Hemisphere. We had Mexico, Argentina, Chile, many countries that we weren't 100% sure of which way they would go. We had the Panama Canal. We had very strategic points that could affect the security of the United States. And they felt that it was important to pay attention to what was going on. So we have received a precious legacy from those people. 83 years, we find ourselves here at the Union League celebrating the importance of Pan-Americanismo, the special relationship that exists among the countries of the Western Hemisphere. So delighted to have all of you here and hope that you will join us as members of the association. Earlier, we had the business meeting, the business segment of the meeting, and we elected the following officers. For President and CEO, Rubén Reyes. Vice Presidents, Charlie Humphrey and Dr. Daniel Shidlow. Treasurer, Arturo Guillén, and Secretary, Diana Larizgoitia. We are an all-volunteer association, so it falls upon these officers the hard work of day-to-day operating this organization. So they deserve a special recognition. Board members also contribute on a day-to-day basis to the running of the organization, and we've elected the following: Rafael Arismendi, Patricia Bosch-Wiesen, Robert Bright, Cecilia Cardesa, Evelyn Clothier, Pelayo Col, Matthew Comiskey, Richard Gioioso, Arturo Guillén, Joseph Hare, Lee Roberts, Miguel Santoni, Daniel Shidlow, Edgar Vesga, and Ron Webb. You'll notice in your booklets that my name is not there in the officers of the association. That's because as of today, I am saying not goodbye, maybe an hasta luego to the association. I have been associated with the association for over almost 30 years. And I'm very happy that the association is now in the hands of such a great group of executives that I am sure will continue to push it forward to achieving our mission. And we'll talk some more later about that, but now I'd like to call to the podium the person who has, for 15 years now, close to 15, move this association to the level where we are right now, open up new doors for us, and establish us on a very strong path to success. I am talking about my dear friend, Romy Diaz. Romy, here you are.
Thank you so much, Ab. Buenas tardes and good afternoon. And welcome to the Pan American Association's 83rd Annual Meeting and Clothier Award presentation. I am Romy Diaz, President and CEO of the Association until later today. Since its founding in 1940, the Association has been dedicated to promoting cultural, educational, and economic activities for better understanding and cooperation among the peoples of the Americas, and to fostering the development of Latino talent in our region. We are proud of the growing Hispanic community and its contributions to the well-being of the Delaware Valley. I'm also proud that for 83 years, this all-volunteer association has performed its mission with the essential support of so many community partners. And today is no exception, with the generous support of our presenting partner, PICO and Constellation, our gold sponsor, Stradley Ronan and the Leo Neeson Jr. Charitable Trust, silver sponsors, LIFA International, Pennsylvania American Water, and Roberts Filters. Our bronze sponsors, Blank Rome LLP, Essential Utilities, Manco Gold Catcher and Fox LLP, and Troutman Pepper. And the generous table sponsors, including Congreso, and those noted in the program booklet. I'm also thrilled to announce the award of an $8,000 grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh. Thanks to all of our community partners for your generous support. We will introduce our keynote speaker and Clothier Award honoree in a few moments. But for now, I'd like to acknowledge the attendance today by former Pennsylvania State Senator Tom Killian, members of the diplomatic community, Martin Silverstein, former U.S. Ambassador to Uruguay, Carlos Obrador, the Consul of Mexico, Peter Longstreth, Honorary Consul of Uruguay, Miguel Alban, Honorary Consul of Peru, and leaders of the community and Latino-serving organizations, including Nilda Ruiz, President and CEO of APM, Janet Diaz, Interim President and CEO of Congreso, the Reverend Bonnie Camarda, and Majors Sean and Kimberly Bellinger of the Salvation Army, and Professor Catherine Barch, Center for Latin American and Latinx Studies at Penn. I'm also pleased to acknowledge the attendance today by so many talented Latinx students from universities and high schools in our region, from Temple, St. Joe's, Drexel, University of Pennsylvania, and Edison High School, as well as the Kensington Creative and Performing Arts High Schools. Students, would you please stand and be recognized? That's our future, folks. That's what motivates us to do what we do in the Pan American Association. Those of you who are here today know that our region cannot thrive until all of our communities are able to thrive. As you've already heard, today the Pan American Association is completing a leadership transition that has been in process over the past year. I am thrilled to welcome Ruben Reyes as our incoming president and CEO, and to recognize Ab Lecter for his many contributions to the association in his new role as Chair Emeritus of the Association's board, which I will now lead. So I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for your goodwill, advice, support, and yes, patience over the past 11 years that I have been privileged to serve as President and CEO. And I want you to know that the association's future under its new leadership has never been brighter. Before I call up to the stage Ab Lecter, who will introduce our 2023 Clothier Award honoree, I'd like to ask the Reverend Bonnie Camarda if she might come forward and say a prayer for peace.
As we pray for peace, can I ask you to stand? I know you're all eating. And we're just going to pray for peace, not only in the Middle East, not only in Israel, but in all the countries that are at war with each other. And really pray that peace comes not through people. You know, people bring peace to the different places we stand. And each of us can be a light and can be peace to our neighbors, to the people who are suffering at this time. God, I pray for the peace of the Middle East. I pray, Lord, that you will put a peace that overpasses understanding, that you will touch each family. Lord, we pray that we touch those who are suffering, but those perpetrators who are declaring war, that you will come in a miraculous way and change their mind, and that they will recognize the God, the Almighty, who can do changes. Lord, we pray for those who love you be secure. May the peace within your walls and security within your boundaries, for the sake of everyone within. And the Bible says, I will say, peace be within you. Psalm 122:6. Peace be with you today as you walk in the different ways in your life. Let the light shine upon you. Blessings.
Thank you so much, Reverend Bonnie. And now I'd like to invite Ab Lecter back to the stage to introduce our 2023 William J. Clothier II honoree.
In 2003, upon the death of the last founder of the Pan American Association, Bill Clothier, we decided to honor his memory by establishing this award to focus on the admirable qualities of his life. And we had a lot of discussion on the board, and I remember my good friend Lee Roberts and Milton Moser and Miguel Santoni, the old guard. We were deciding what are the criteria to use for this award. And they became clear as we discussed them. First and foremost was service. Service to the community, the local community, service to the country. The idea that we're not here just for ourselves, that after we secure a certain amount of comfort, or even before we do that, we have to think about our fellow human beings. We have to think about our communities. So service was paramount, the dedication and the acceptance of that value of service. We also wanted to honor the world of action. Not that the world of ideas isn't important, indeed it's essential. But with this award, we wanted to focus on the action, on the things that we're doing. And Bill Clothier certainly did a lot. Beyond that, we also wanted to have integrity in the recipient of this award. Not only integrity in the sense of the fiduciary responsibility with funds that they would handle, but integrity in meaning what they are thinking, saying it, and completing it through dedicating themselves honestly to whatever they promise to do. And finally, and foremost, I said, the American spirit, that value of maybe I'm not ready for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Maybe I don't have it all what I would like to have, but I'm going to try my best. I'm going to take a risk, and try to accomplish a goal, a mission. I always like to say American, the last letters of Americans, I can. Very inspirational. We wanted to reward somebody that would say, I can do this, may not be totally prepared for it, but I'm going to do it. So those were the criteria that we established, and I have to say that seldom have I found a candidate for this award that fulfills to such a large measure those criteria. And I can say it because I worked with the recipient of this award for 10 years at Congreso as a board member, and I watched her act as a fellow board member and then as CEO of the agency, a significant agency, just like APM and Concilio. We have some wonderful agencies that serve primarily the Hispanic community in Philadelphia. So this candidate was one of the best. He was A on the 4 boxes. And I am very proud to call her my friend, and I want everybody to please give a warm applause to the 2023 William Clothier Award recipient, Carolina Cabrera Di Giorgio.
Everybody who knows me knows that I cry, so buenas tardes, good afternoon. Thank you to the Pan American Association and all of its board members and volunteers, and a very special thank you to Ab and his wife Lynn and to Romy, not just for today or selecting me, but for their friendship and support over the years. Ab is a very special person to me. And sometimes I think he's looked at me with such pride, like a father does, and I'm glad that I have made you proud. When Romy called me, I missed the call, and I saw his name come up on my phone, and it was a busy day in Harrisburg, and I said, I'll call him at the end of the day. And after we got through the, how you doing, how's the job, how are the kids, I sat there with a pen and paper. I was on the edge of my bed, pen and paper. I was ready to write down the DEP permit number that he needed help with. And I said, what can I do for you, Romy? And he said, what you can do for me is accept this award. And I said, no, Romy, I don't deserve it. I have not done enough in my life yet. I've been to this event. I know the types of people who get this award. And in my head, I was thinking, I'm not old enough. Come on, I'm still in my prime. So, of course, I accepted the award, and I then sat on the bed, and as I typically do, a lot of research. I looked up, William Clothier. I looked up the definitions of service and leadership and all of these things, trying to connect myself to these values. And as you know, on the internet, you can go down this spiral of articles, and I ended up reading studies about relationships with humans, countries, leaders, and why is it so difficult for all of us to get along? What is that driving sort of force that always keeps us apart? And I read studies that spoke to our humanity and our inherent qualities that make us more, according to the study, make us more successful when we're in small groups with people like us. And I thought, I guess there's some truth to that, but the whole point of diversity and inclusion is to be aware, to be intentional about our efforts when we're in larger groups and we're with people that are not like ourselves, and be successful together. Otherwise, it can become a barrier. And we know America is so diverse, so many different types of people, all wonderful, wonderful people and communities that really have so much common ground. My entire life, I've threaded service. When I was a young girl, I guess I didn't know it. I thought leadership was service, and it is in a way. Student council, I was a nerd. Student council, I did all the academic things in school. I wasn't an athlete. And it wasn't until actually I joined the law firm of Stradley Ronan, and I just want to highlight Bill Sasso here because he's been such a big part of my life and the opportunities that I've been afforded. It wasn't until I joined Stradley Ronan that I was encouraged, as I'm sure all the lawyers here can attest to, getting involved in my community, using my talents and my skills to give back in ways that I just hadn't been aware of before. And thank goodness for Stradley Ronan and its push to get its young lawyers out there, because some of those opportunities that I got turned into relationships and further opportunities. I met Congresso while I was at Stradley Ronan, an organization that I've been with and part of. I still say today I'm part of it because it'll always stay in my heart. For over 15 years as a board member and then CEO. Congresso is where I learned really about life and love and the rawness of hardship and community and spirit and that fighting resilience. I met such wonderful people there like Jeanette Diaz, who is leading the organization now in such a wonderful way. I'm so glad to have her as part of my life. Congresso, I know you're here, different tables perhaps, but I miss you very, very much. They say that the people who you surround yourself with influence you, and I absolutely think that's true. I'm fortunate to have with me a life partner, my husband, who is the most avid reader that I will ever meet. I mean, there are books in our house about creation, the Bible, religion, Frederick Douglass, founding fathers. I mean, you name it. It's all across the board. His curiosity, his desire to understand across all lines has influenced me very much. I don't think he realizes how much. But as a family, we've always believed in the greater good and serving our country, serving our communities, serving our families. And people often laugh because, for those of you that don't know, he and I have both been registered Republicans all of my life since I turned 18, and he is. And this is not a political conversation, but I say that to make a point. I think it's funny, I guess, that both of my traditional public service jobs have been for Pennsylvania's biggest Democrat, our friend, our governor, Josh Shapiro. And people ask me, how do you work for someone on the other side of the aisle? And I say, respond with two things. I said, number one, I happen to have gotten the privilege of working with him at Stradley Ronan for many years as attorneys. But number two, I believe in him. And just because he's registered the other way and leads the other party doesn't mean there isn't common ground. We've broken bread together. We've dined together. He knows my kids. And that speaks more to me about a person. And so labels are important, but they can be misleading and divisive. And the second reason why I chose to work for someone of the other side is that I know that by making that choice, I am setting an example to others that you can find that common ground, you can find that mutual vision, and you can work together for a greater good as human beings, as individuals who are longing to serve our country and to see progress and result. And so, they say that, and there's so many youth here. I hope you all take the opportunity to say hello to the youth here because they are watching us. And in our home, we talk about issues, we talk about life. And I did a little social experiment. Valentino doesn't know why I did this, but now he does. We have two young boys, Julian and Dominic, ages 12 and 10. And one afternoon I said, hey guys, I have a question for you. I'm going to ask you to pick a side. I said there's a Team X and there's a Team Y. And Team X, their platform is all about a 4-day school week, no homework, free baseball tickets for all kids, vegetables every night. I had to throw in a mix there. And Team Y, it's a 6-day school week. They also, no homework. They advocate for free sports tickets for all sports, not just the MLB. And I said, which side do you resonate with? And they had Team X, of course. We don't want to go to school 6 days a week, And I said, okay, I gotcha. I said, I agree. I said, but you know what? Team Y has won the election. They've won the election, and they're asking you for an opportunity to join them, to work on the things that you both have in common. And they were like, yeah, but we don't want to go to school 6 days a week. I said, no, they won. I said, that's happening. I said, but are you going to miss out on the opportunity to go advance to things that you share in common? And they were like, yeah, Mom, we will. But can we still root for Team X next time? I said, sure. The point being is that the things you do at home, the way you are in your relationships with your children, with your families, with your friends, people are watching. And I hope that through my opportunities that I've had, that I've been able to influence folks to say, hey, I'm going to do that even if it's a little uncomfortable, even if I get some criticism. There is a greater good here, and that greater good is our country and our communities. I am a big patriot. I love America. And I will continue to serve in whatever way anyone asks me to, if there is a greater good and a mutual benefit for our families and especially for our kids. I want to thank some people that are here. Of course, my husband and Bill Sasso and Jeanette, Esperanza New, who has been my friend and my first board chair and guided me through some pretty funny times and stressful times. Miguel Alban, Don Fernando Mendez, Fernando Torres, and all the others that have kind of crossed my path over the years, whether as attorneys at Stradley or just through relationships or my current job now at DEP as Chief Legal Counsel. I couldn't have said it better than Reverend Bonnie did, but peace begins with all of us. Every day, our smallest of actions, they make an influence and they matter. So I commit to you, and I thank you for this honor that peace will always begin with me. Thank you.
Ab. Let's have another round for our Clothier Award recipient 2023, Carolina DiGiorgio. Thank you so much. And Danielle Shidlow, Dr. Danielle Shidlow. I'm going to call you up here to the stage to introduce our keynote speaker.
Good afternoon. Bienvenidos one more time. 50 years ago, almost to the date, a military coup deposed the Marxist government of Chile, leading in the future from that date a tremendous economic development, but extracting a significant human cost. 50 years later, the country again is led by a coalition that includes socialists, communists, and other leftist forces, and question marks have arisen as to the nature of the country's journey into the future. A country nestled in a continent where many governments appear unable or unwilling to aim at social constructs leading to melding economic progress with social justice and prosperity with democracy. We're very grateful to our speaker, Ambassador Patrick Duddy, for consenting to share with us his valuable perspectives stemming from a lifetime of a brilliant diplomatic career and experiential knowledge. So I would like now to invite Ambassador Duddy to address us all on what I promise will be extremely interesting and illuminating remarks.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Danielle, Ab, Romy. It's a pleasure to be back in Philadelphia. I have to say, it's very hard to follow Carolina. That was a wonderful, wonderful set of remarks. and you are obviously and manifestly richly deserving of the award. As I begin, I'd also like to note that I've been in Philadelphia before, and I'm not sure I've ever seen an association of Panamericanistas quite like this one. And it is a real honor for me to be back. And I wish the new leadership team the very best in the years to come. Now, it's a very tumultuous time in the world, obviously. Latin America is often overlooked, and recently in particular it seems to have slid down the list of priorities for many in the mainstream media. Since my retirement from the State Department, I seem to have had rather a long shelf life, because my last assignment was as the U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela, and even this week there have been developments between the opposition, the regime in Venezuela, and the U.S. I hope to kind of blast through this survey of what's happened in recent years in Chile, and to leave enough time for some questions at the end. For those of you who are unfamiliar with my background, I've served not only in Venezuela, but also in Chile, Paraguay, Brazil, Bolivia, Panama, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic. I've spent a lot of time in Haiti, and I was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere, responsible for all of Brazil and the Southern Cone, as well as for the Caribbean, and the Office of Economic Policy and Summit Coordination. So some of my knowledge may be a little dated, but I do have some scope, and I'd be happy to take questions toward the end. Now, it seems to me a particularly interesting time to reflect on what has happened, especially in recent years, in Chile. In part because much of what essentially erupted just a short time ago took most of us by surprise. Right? So what I hope to do in my remarks today is to take you, if you will, from September 1973 to the current reality in Santiago. As Daniel noted, it was 50 years ago that the regime led by, in fact, Augusto Pinochet, an army general, toppled the government of Salvador Allende. Now, Chile has been a key reference point for me for a long time. It was my first post in the Foreign Service. My daughter was born when we were there. And I note that later in my career, when I was working at a more senior level, almost always in the Americas, I was regularly reminded by others, particularly, obviously, after the turn of the new millennium, that 9/11 resonates as a date in Latin America, not only because of the Twin Towers, right? Not only because of the Twin Towers. And what happened in Chile even then was pretty shocking. In fact, so shocking that they made rather dramatic movies about it. One called Missing starred Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek. Now, when I received the initial invitation to join the Foreign Service, my wife and I were working for a small American college in Switzerland, arguably the most peaceful and prosperous country of the world. Two young people, paid in Swiss francs, legitimately resident in this fortress of stability. I went to my wife and I said, you know, I've gotten the invitation to join the Foreign Service. What do you think? Are you prepared to leave this really very comfortable life to see what happens if we venture into the rest of the world? her response, God bless her, her response was, okay, but we had both seen this movie, Missing. She said, but promise me, we won't be sent to Chile. And I said, oh, that's clear. My first diplomatic assignment, as I said, after training in Washington, was to Santiago. And it was dramatic. As we arrived, there were major demonstrations going on in the city, people leaning out of the windows, banging pots and pans. And my already pregnant wife wanted to know just what exactly I had gotten her into. Now, as most of you are aware, during the Pinochet regime, and it was a very, very tough government, but during the Pinochet regime, some very interesting things happened. Perhaps most significantly, the military regime essentially turned over management of the economy to a group of young economists who had trained at the University of Chicago. And they orchestrated a transformation of the Chilean economy according to the market-oriented principles championed by the Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman. And their program, if you will, the abruptness of the change and the boldness of the change is hard to appreciate now. But at the time, statist models, import substitution development, dependency theory dominated economics faculties everywhere, and actually government policy as well. The Chicago boys rejected all of that. And as their model was implemented, the economy of Chile changed substantially. Substantially. I see someone nodding in the audience. Unfortunately, the human rights situation did not. Right? The human rights situation did not. And anecdotally, I can remember, and the human rights situation was bad. And I remember talking to someone about a mutual friend who had been arrested and what had happened to him while detained. And as the conversation was ending, someone said to me, my God, some of these people, meaning the regime, think they have to plug you into the wall to talk to you. So it was a dramatic and alarming time. Now, the spark that ignited the protests of 2019 was an increase in metro fares. An increase in metro fares, what I'm sure to most of us seems like a very minor change, but tens of thousands poured into the streets of Santiago de Chile, the country most of us had regarded as, in a sense, a settled case, prosperous, peaceful, democratic. Right? Tens of thousands poured into the streets, and an enraged working class clashed with the police in violence which had not been seen in Chile in decades, basically not since the period when I first arrived there, and when the economy initially, shortly after the Chicago boys started, but before it became successful, the economy had basically foundered, and there had been violent demonstrations. So a country where the median age is well under 30, most of the people who were in the streets didn't remember even the earlier era of demonstrations. So it was an abrupt change, and many of us who follow events in Chile, Chile watchers in other parts of the world, all asked ourselves, how had we missed this? How had we not known this was coming? Right? it seemed particularly hard to understand since we knew that in the aggregate, Chile had reduced poverty by 50%. Arguably, no other country in the Americas had had remotely the same success in reducing poverty. I think key was a particular set of numbers, and a Chilean journalist named Daniel Matamala captured it in a quick summary, which the Stigler Center published in 2021. He said, look, on the one hand, Chile's growth has been exceptional. GDP leaped from $14 billion in 1977 to $247 billion in 2017. Right? On the other hand, he noted, the country's economic equality, then, he said, is astonishing. 28.1% of the total income is concentrated in just 1% of the population. In a word, he argues, it wasn't poverty exactly that ignited this social upheaval, but rather inequality that so enraged Chileans. It was the apparently unbridgeable gap between that 1% and everybody else. Now, it's been a fascinating period since those initial demonstrations. To placate the demonstrators, and according to some observers, more than 1 million Chileans eventually went into the streets to protest the change in metro fares, but also other issues. Then President Piñera agreed to permit a referendum on reforming the Pinochet-era constitution, which was considered principally by the left as neoliberal. And despite the changes that successive governments of the center and center-left in Chile had made, the constitution was still considered a vestige of the old dictatorship. Legislation to authorize a rewrite was passed, and in May of 2021, the leftist delegates won an overwhelming majority, more than 2/3 of the seats in the Constitutional Convention. Right? Quite amazing. And then subsequently, a young, left-leaning, former student leader who had briefly served in the Congress was elected president. Incredible. Representing a new coalition of leftist parties. And he had run for office essentially arguing for the legitimacy of this constitutional change and advocating that he would push for approval of the new draft when it was presented. The story of Borodic's presidency, by the way, has been fascinating, and to the left in Chile and elsewhere, sobering and disappointing. The new constitutional draft, when it was presented, was long. It would have been the longest constitution in the world. And it proposed a leading role for the state in virtually every aspect of life, including health care, education, and pensions. It gave virtual autonomy to Chile's indigenous community, and included strict, some would say even draconian, environmental standards, which, according to many, threatened Chile's important mining, fishery, and forestry sectors. Now, again, as those of you who follow Chile may know, on September 8th, 2022, the draft was presented to the public. And the public overwhelmingly rejected it by a margin that pretty much mirrored the vote in favor of the left-leaning delegates who drafted it only a year or so before. This was extraordinary, right? Now, after the draft constitution was rejected, Boric and his allies insisted on trying again. And to their dismay, they had to vote for a new constitutional convention. To their dismay, the hard right supporters of the individual he had defeated in the election won a majority of the seats. And again, this was, from my point of view, this was not surprising. Polling had confirmed that Boric's own popularity had plummeted, in part because of the rejection of the Constitution, but in part because he had not been able to successfully advance much that he had promised during his own campaign. Now, in December of this year, Chileans are going to vote on another draft constitution. I've seen some early portions. It looks like it's going to be a significantly more conservative document. Not 100%, but more conservative than the document that was originally presented by the first Constitutional Convention. And it's essentially going to preserve an economic model that has largely yielded extraordinary macroeconomic success. It's removed much that threatened the key industries, mining, forestry, fisheries, and very much diminished the provisions initially submitted for the indigenous community. Just a footnote to that, my own view is that in particular was very important to many Chileans because the language the original draft offered was that they were proposing Chile become what they were calling a plurinacional state. This echoed a change that was made in Bolivia. In my experience, having lived and worked in both countries, is Chileans in no way wish to emulate Bolivia. Right? In no way. And so the idea of proposing something originating in Bolivia was absolutely anathema to voters almost across the whole political spectrum. So in December of this year, they're going to be looking at a new draft. More conservative draft, and one I think likely to be accepted. What I would note, however, is that it will likely be accepted. It will be approved, but it will not address, according to many on the left, the complaints that in fact generated this entire effort in many respects. In other words, they're going to redraft the Constitution. Maybe it was overdue. The right will be, if not thrilled, relatively happy. The left, not so much. Does this, in fact, plant the seed for future disruption? It's hard to say. But in a sense, in terms of the political evolution of Chile, that's where we are right now. Right? They're still working on this constitution. They're going to present it to the public for approval in December. Right? What I would suggest is that it's worth thinking for just a moment of what the other trends are in Latin America and in Chile that make this significant. A couple of things, it seems to me. First, Chile has I believe, world's largest reserves of copper. They're an important player for a tremendously important raw material. But they also, along with Bolivia and Argentina, have the world's largest reserves of lithium, and, which is key for computers and electric vehicles. How they will develop these resources is going to be of immense importance globally. And what I note, and this morning or this afternoon is not the right time to review all of the different models, the three countries holding those reserves haven't quite figured out what they want to do with them or how they want to develop them. But in the meantime, those reserves and others in that part of the world are very much being pursued by China, right? And China is already, notwithstanding the fact that they have a free trade agreement with us, China is already the largest trading partner for Chile and for Peru and for Brazil, and they're close to the top with virtually every other country in the region. In other words, for all that we would like to eschew a conversation about a budding, perhaps a new Cold War, in point of fact, near-peer or great power competition has returned to the Americas, right? It has returned to the Americas. Now, I'm going to wrap up, but a postscript. I would simply note that U.S. power and influence in Latin America has declined. We're not insignificant, but it has declined for any number of reasons. As recently as about 2 hours ago, I got a message from people I know at the Council on Foreign Relations about a new article someone is bringing out talking about the fact that Latin America largely dropped out of the news, except for the border and drug trafficking, 25 years ago. It's back, right? It's back. There's instability in a number of places. And in the past, we would have thought of Chile as the anchor, as the country that was the model, that could easily be indicated. Look, they can achieve democracy and respect for human rights and the development of their natural resources, engagement with the rest of the world without important disruptions. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward. I can tell you that as others look around the hemisphere, including analysts who are in and from Latin America, one of the realities that I point out remains true elsewhere too, which is the Achilles heel of that part of the world, with all of its human resources, natural resources, the absence of, for the most part, of external enemies, etc. The Achilles heel is inequality, right? Chile experienced a social upheaval, notwithstanding the fact that poverty had been reduced by 50%, and they had sustained GDP growth almost without exception for about 30 years. Inequality is I think, the thing that we need to focus on. And as I've been given the high sign and want to leave a couple of minutes for questions, I'll simply note that one of the reasons we have seen so much turnover elsewhere, in, for instance, Peru, which was also experiencing macroeconomic growth, but was changing political parties and formulas with every election. Why? Because the macroeconomic progress was never adequately appreciated or felt at the microeconomic level. Right? The fact that the GDP has grown 3 or 4% is insignificant to people who can't afford the basics for their families. Now, that wasn't the case in Chile. But the resentment that inequality engendered, right, was something that even substantial macroeconomic growth could not overcome. So I'll stop there and Romy, if I have time, I'll take a question or two.
There's so many questions I might ask, but the one I will ask is that in view of the U.S. withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific a few years ago, and given the strong economic interest and strategic interest of China in Latin America, particularly on the Pacific coast, what are the opportunities now going forward in the U.S. in connection with either economic interests or strategic interests like lithium?
Well, there are already major American companies looking south and thinking about lithium development. That's number one. There's a very significant player from North Carolina, Albemarle, already engaged there, and there are other companies heading in that direction as well. I think the more generally, what we've seen in Washington is an erosion of the consensus that free trade and foreign trade is an inherently good thing. Because it is a curious moment in the Americas, there may be opportunities in the proximate future for Washington policymakers, particularly on the trade side, to engage with individual governments in the region about their interest in, say, the energy transformation, the green agenda. We continue to be a significant trading partner for many of the countries of the region, and our investment stock is often still in excess of that of the Chinese. But I would say the energy sector is probably the best, whether it's thinking about the offshore, say, deposits in the Caribbean, particularly with Guyana, which had 25% GDP growth last year, but also elsewhere. So I think energy is probably the best place, and I don't think that all of the countries of Latin America that have been working with the Chinese are happy with the character of that interaction. I've had some experience with that in talking to folks in the Caribbean. So that would be the first thing I would say. Another question? I've briefed you into submission. Yes, sir. Noboa. Yeah, the son of, a banana magnate. My very personal opinion, and then all of these things, I'm retired from the State Department, and when I speak on these issues, I don't necessarily reflect the views of my current colleagues at Duke University. I think it was a very good thing that he versus a disciple of the former president, Rafael Correa, was elected president. But he's inheriting a very, very volatile situation. Some of you will remember that one of the other political presidential candidates was only a couple of months ago was assassinated, and then the 7 assassins, presumed assassins, who were arrested were themselves assassinated in prison. The election campaign itself was marred by violence, explosions, shootings, etc. So one of the other countries in Latin America that many of us pointed to as moving into that band of nations that appeared to have sort of graduated from the instability with which so many of us are familiar in Latin America was Ecuador. And that stability is very much in question right now. Anyone else? Income inequality in particular.
What's your perspective on how Latin America is engaging with these problems? Are they doing a capacity issue? Are they engaging in anything?
Well, some are. My sense is that there is, as we look across the continent, there is no consensus on how to deal with income inequality, right? There is no consensus. Just as, and my sense is that that even in Latin America, what was a consensus on foreign trade has eroded somewhat. A country like Brazil, for instance, which has seen an immense growth in the agricultural sector, particularly with exports of soy, has actually begun to see indications of deindustrialization as the country has become more and more dependent on unimproved exports and less competitive, except with the United States, in exporting manufactured goods. Am I done?
One more question? All right. Thank you very much. Hold on 1 second.
I don't know whose phone this is.
So thank you, Ambassador Duddy, but I'd like to invite Ab and Ruben up to the stage. So we might give you a Philly memento and hopefully entice you to think about coming back again.
I would love it. Thank you so much.
One more round of applause for Ambassador Patrick Duddy. Thank you so much for those incisive remarks. And I'd like to invite our new President and CEO, Ruben Reyes, to share his thoughts about the future. Ruben.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ambassador Duddy, for such an insightful presentation. Let's give the Ambassador another round of applause, please. Thank you for joining us today. Now I want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Carolina Giorgio, our honoree. Your commitment is really an inspiration for all of us, and we are so glad that you accepted the award. Please join me in giving her a big round of applause. We're very proud of you. Ladies and gentlemen, as it was mentioned at the beginning of the program, we have leadership changes in the organization. Starting today, Ab Lecter will become our chair emeritus and Romy Diaz will become our board chair. We normally don't like to take time to speak about internal business, but I hope that you agree that it is important to pause for a moment and recognize the contributions of these excellent leaders that we have in the organization. Ab has been the chair of the board for almost 2 decades, and during that time he has provided invaluable guidance and direction to the board, and he has been really a vital force for the organization. We met almost 15 years ago, and soon after I joined the Pan American board. You have been a friend and a mentor for all these years. Thank you for your advice and wisdom. I know that you're trying to escape with the emeritus title, but we're not letting you go. We look forward to many more years of your friendship and wisdom. Thank you. Romy has been our president for the last 11 years. Under his leadership, he has achieved significant milestones. Notably, he led the enlargement and funding of our academic awards. He has engaged a large group of committed sponsors, and he has been key in our deepening relationship with the Hispanic communities in the region. You have exceptional qualities that really inspire me. You are an excellent speaker, a master in parliamentary procedure, and you're a very highly effective leader. I have learned a great deal from you. Thank you so much. I consider both of you gentlemen and a class act. You embody the values and the aspirations of the Pan American Association. You have left an indelible mark, and we owe you our deepest gratitude. Please, let's give them a big round of applause. ladies and gentlemen, as I assume the role of president, and it's happened just like that, I would like to share with you a few thoughts on our vision for the future of the Pan American Association. Having been a member of the board for over a decade, I have developed a profound understanding of the importance and the impact of this organization. I have witnessed the evolution of the association and the dedication and contributions of our members and supporters. As a result, I am firmly convinced of the potential for the future of the association. The Pan American Association has a remarkable history. Our mission to promote Pan-Americanism is as relevant today as it was 83 years ago. In our current global landscape, marked by profound geopolitical shifts, rising tensions and conflicts, and growing radicalization, the need for communication, diplomacy, and cooperation has never been more crucial, and our mission takes on an even greater significance. Over the last decade, we made a strategic shift towards education. During that time, we grew our scholarships sixfold, awarding $150,000 to 113 students. This accomplishment is a testament to our commitment to nurturing talent and supporting future leaders. As we look into the future, our goal is to dramatically increase our impact. In order to achieve this, we need to expand our programs and grow our organization. We envision a future where the Pan American Association plays an even more significant role in fostering understanding, communication, and positive change. Education will continue to be the bedrock of our organization. It is through education that we can empower individuals to make lasting impact. To that end, we are pursuing a bold vision to dramatically expand our educational programs in 4 key areas. First, we will grow our academic awards in terms of the number of students and the size of the awards. Our academics award will continue to be our highest academic honors. We will introduce a new scholarship program that will provide ongoing support throughout college to students with high academic performance and proven financial need. This program goes beyond mere financial assistance. Its primary objective is to nurture values and professional skills that are aligned with our mission. Our aim is to set students in a trajectory of future leadership roles and in engagement in community. This program is a comprehensive package that includes professional development, language training, mentorship, and a commitment to volunteering. We will launch an innovative fellowship program. This initiative is designed to provide paid internships to students working at mentor organizations that share our mission. Through close collaboration with these mentor organizations, we will ensure that students access unique and challenging work experiences. While our fellows will gain practical skills, the mentor organizations will benefit from the dedication and talent of these students. Our goal is to establish this program reputation as the prime source of exceptional talent for mentor organizations and as a highly sought after professional experience for students looking to improve their resume and to pursue a career that embraces the values of Pan-Americanism. Lastly, we will continue to grow our lectures and conference programs. Our vision is not only to increase their number, but to partner with the prestigious academic institutions in Philadelphia. This collaboration will allow us to harness the intellectual power of the region and foster vibrant exchange of ideas, Additionally, we aspire to host an annual Pan-American Conference, a gathering that will serve as the focal point for leaders in academia, business, government, and community organizations. Our focus on education will play a pivotal role in advancing the cause of Pan-Americanism. These educational programs represent our commitment to nurturing talent, fostering values, and creating lasting impact. Now, in addition to our educational programs, we place high value on the spirit of community and camaraderie. We're committed to continue our long tradition of social events. We firmly believe that these gatherings are a fundamental instrument which cultivate open and engaging communication and serve as the platform to form connections and flourish relationships. To further enrich our social events, we will collaborate with our sponsors in organizing a wide variety of activities. This includes cultural events, sporting events, consular receptions, galas, holiday receptions, and international trade missions, among others. Despite the challenges and the long journey ahead of us, I feel incredibly optimistic. These programs will serve as the building blocks of a more integrated, peaceful, and prosperous world. We see knowledge and friendship to converge to foster communication and understanding, and our commitment to nurturing both the mind and the heart is what really sets us apart and makes our vision extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude the program today with this glimpse into the future, I want to express my appreciation to the many volunteers that made today's event possible and a success. The board and officers of the Pan American Association, the Luncheon Steering Committee, especially its chair, Daniel Shidlow, and special thanks to Denise Kushevsky, who helps us keep the trains running smoothly. It brings me immense joy to see not only friends, but also a lot of new faces. My deep gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us today. Your presence here is a testament to your commitment to Pan-Americanism, and we deeply appreciate it.
I hope that you agree that this has been a wonderful 83rd annual meeting. The Pan American Association has long been a beacon of hope in Philadelphia and beyond, dedicated to advancing knowledge, understanding, and engagement among the peoples of the Americas. In that spirit, please consider becoming a member or supporting us in any way that you can, so that we can continue the work ahead of us. Your support is the lifeblood of the organization. We look forward to seeing all of you at our next event, and until then, enjoy the holidays and the rest of your day.